And even good insurance plans now are raising those deductibles. So if you have a heart attack and go for cardiac rehab, it's usually a 6-week program, 3 times a week. That's an outpatient service. Every one of those visits could be a $30 copay or a $50 copay. And are you going to go for every one of those visits? It's an elective program. You don't have to do it. Certainly it's better for your heart. But you know, if your economics are borderline, now you're off work for 6 weeks recovering, are you gonna spend that money for that physical therapy? People used to come to physical therapy 2 or 3 times a week for 4 or 5 weeks for a knee injury or a foot injury. You know, they'll come in now for a couple of visits and say, I can do these exercises at home. You know, it's not as therapeutic, but they've got to make those choices, and they're tough choices. So again, the economy is definitely affecting us. You know, the high deductible health care plans. You know, my children are 28 and 25 and newly in the workforce. And every time they call me with, I can get this high deductible health care plan, I'm like, no, don't do it. Because I know they won't seek the services if it's going to come out of, if they've got to pay out of pocket. Because they're not banking what they're not paying in a premium, I know that. So, and so that not only affects our pocketbook, affects the utilization of services, which affects Jones Memorial's bottom line, also potentially affects the health of the community and your health. So, you know, challenges within the healthcare industry and certainly challenges for Jones Memorial. So, any questions so far? Okay. Now I'll go on to a little bit of talk about leadership and as it relates to healthcare. And I promise hopefully some interaction in the end at the end of this discussion, so it won't be such a one-way street here. So leadership, and what's leadership like at a small institution? Well, for sure at a small institution, and I think probably at a large institution, not that I've been there, but I don't think there's any room for elitism or an ego. I think you have to, you need to value your employees. Your employees are everything to the organization. If they're not happy, they're not going to be as effective, and they're not going to smile in the hallways. And it's really not a cliche. The employees that you have working for you and your coworkers are the best asset an organization has. You really have to consider those decisions and how it affects your employees. Their opinions count. And you need to listen to them. You might not always agree with them. And definitely the opinions of your consumers count. When I give the welcome speech to employees during employee orientation, you know, people come into a hospital expecting to get the right medications, expecting to get quality care, expecting to get the expertise that we've been trained with. What they want, and that's their baseline expectation. I'm sure if you're in the hospital, you're not saying, geez, I hope 95% of the time they're giving me the right medicine. And I'm sure you expect 110% of the time you're getting the right medication. But what they want is a nice soft touch, a warm blanket, a smile, someone to answer their call bell as soon as possible, someone to care. It's the warm fuzzies that make them have a good experience and make them say we're a good institution. Baseline is they expect that we're going to do everything perfectly. The reality is we are human beings and we don't always do everything perfectly at Jones Memorial or at Strong Memorial or at Buffalo General, and mistakes do happen. We are human beings and you want human beings to care for you, but your expectation is it's going to be perfect. And what we need to also add on to that are the warm fuzzies. So, and that's not just in healthcare. That's whether you're working at Kmart as a clerk or whether you're a vice president at a bank. Everyone wants to smile and to be treated as a true customer. And if they're not happy, they're going to talk about it a lot. Sometimes you'll hear when they are happy and they really enjoy the experience. But you're almost always going to hear about it, or someone's going to hear about it, and you want it to be you. I would rather have them come and talk to me in my office and get it off their chest than to go to Texas Hot and tell everybody at the counter what a bad experience they had at Jones Memorial. So you really have to consider your customers, no matter who your customers are, their opinions. The other thing is that I truly believe you really have to consider your own values. I think the fact that you're here at Houghton is a sign that you considered your values, your personal values, and where you chose to come to school. And when you're looking for that workplace or your first job, no matter what field it's in, you really ought to look at where you're working and what you're doing and make sure or try to assure that there's some congruence with your own personal values and the job you're going to be doing for 40 hours a week, 40 hours or more a week. Because it's going to be difficult for you to succeed if the industry or the organization you're working for, there isn't some alignment between your values and their values in the type of work you're doing. And you're not going to feel true to yourself and happy if you don't kind of identify your values and look for those in your work life as well as in your personal life. My personal and professional values that I kind of live by, they're very simplistic and short and sweet. I think you can have diplomacy with integrity and respectful honesty. Certainly, I hope that I live and die by being honest, but you need to be respectful in the way that you deliver sometimes that honesty. And certainly, diplomacy is important. But if people don't view you as having integrity, then their interactions with you are never going to be the same again. Those are my personal values. I think that leading is a balancing act. It's sometimes difficult. Jones Memorial needs to be financially solvent, but we also have a very poor population we need to deliver charity care to. There are things that we need to do that don't make money. But they're part of our mission and things that we feel are absolutely important for the community. And how can we balance that with the things that do make money so that we can afford to do the things that don't make money? I also want the hospital to be there long after I'm not there. So the decisions I'm making as a CEO or working with my administrative team and the board to make, I want to help and solidify the financial solvency of that organization. While we're also delivering all the free care to our county that we can. So those can be difficult. Leading is knowing when to balance rolling up your sleeves and getting into the thick of things. And in a small organization, many of our managers are working managers, and one day they're working beside a staff member, and the next day they're giving their performance appraisal. That's just the nature of working in any small organization. And so you need to know when to roll up your sleeves and help, and when to stand back and let the folks that are working for you and with you grow and try things on their own, and then when to just get out of their way and let them go and do it themselves. I think that leadership is situational. Probably some of you may already have done some reading or had some instructions on different leadership gurus in some of your classes in organizational theory or management. There's a lot of different business models out there and leadership gurus. And I think you really have to look at the situation you're in, the business you work in, and what's going on right then, or the personal situation you're in, whether you belong to a board in at some organization that you're volunteering with. Stephen Covey is very warm and fuzzy and very soft, and Tom Peters, another leadership guru, is pounding his fist and shouting, and you get it done in a weekend, you lock everybody in a room and you don't leave until you get the job done. Some things are conducive to that style, and other things need a much softer touch. One of the other things that I truly believe in and as a leader, and I found has been invaluable, is a balanced team. Whether it's a team you're working of coworkers, or if you're the person hiring somebody that's going to work for you. The natural tendency is to migrate towards people who are much like you, who who act the same, who have similar values, who have a similar background, sometimes even look the same. But the reality is you don't need somebody like you. You need somebody that can challenge you, somebody that has a different viewpoint, someone to balance you and balance your skills, someone to augment the skills that you already bring to the table. So when you're looking at a team of people to work with, even a team to work with on a school project, you really, if you've got one set of personality traits, look for that other individual that brings something different to the table, and that end product you'll find is a much stronger product because you have that diversity of input. Another, I think, thing to think about when you're talking about leadership and you're talking about professional development, even within yourself, is that a lot of the leadership lessons and a lot of the professional development, it's not a whole lot different than the lessons our parents taught us, our kindergarten teacher taught us. Be respectful, be nice, treat other people as you would like to be treated. Don't backbite, don't gossip. Those are really basic things. And if you kind of go against those, they come back to haunt you. So really, life lessons are leadership lessons, and they're really one and the same. That's where I want to go into a little exercise here. And I'd like you to think about a leader that you've had, that you've come in contact. Could be a coach, could be a friend, a neighbor, a spiritual leader, a boss, a teacher, somebody that you would consider a leader, somebody that you wanted to follow. Because one of the things about leadership is leadership means you're trying to convince someone to follow you, whether they want to do what you want them to do or not. Convincing them to do something they wouldn't normally do is really the crux of leadership. And what characteristics did they have that inspired you to follow them? Are we